Welcome. And this is Rekha Kurup, and I'm here to share with you the systemic theory and family constellation wisdom. And today I am going to go deeper into the orders of love or the principles of relationship, the entire philosophy on which the constellation work is based out of. And we already looked at systemic theory, morphogenetic field, the knowing field, family system. What does it mean by family system? And all the different aspects, all the different ways that constellation opens up and explores and, is available to us. The different areas in which it helps us find agreement or resolution. We also looked at conscience in the last video, the binds and bonds of conscience. And conscience is something very interesting. And we also looked at the levels of conscience, the very individual or personal conscience. We looked at the collective unconscious conscience and also the spiritual conscience, and the journey of autonomy or authority, that we attain that when we are able to, when our conscience is able to expand, it has more room. It is able to become aware, notice the personal conscience or the individual conscience, which is a very moral conscience, which is based on rights and wrongs. This is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. And it is a conscience which is very much informed from our own system. Yeah, so this conscience, it is a very immature conscience. It's a very narrow conscience. It's a child's conscience, and it is without it we won't survive. So the individual conscience keeps the child bound to the family system in order to have the needs of belonging, the giving and taking, and some social order, some social norms and predictability for the child. So for us to survive in life, we really need this individual conscience. And this is something that is just built into us. It's an impulse, even through by nature, that helps us stay bonded. And then as we grow up, this starts feeling like we want to separate. Yeah, every child moves into this movement of separation, and when it tries to move away from its system, we feel this guilt and innocence. So this guilt and innocence, whenever we experience, that is part of the personal or the individual conscience, and we cannot escape it. You might be 90 years old and still you might experience this, the binds and bonds of the individual conscience. But then you also know that you've seen life, that it's all right, your adult self, so this attachment and authenticity we looked at. So attachment is something very much connected. It keeps us attached for survival, and that is part of this individual conscience. And then there is also a collective conscience, which is very unconscious, which is amoral, which has no morality. It treats dead and alive as the same, but it is bound to the entire system. So the thing is, if you say, I don't want to be part of this, also you will feel this pull. Even when you say that I cannot step out, also you will feel this pull of the conscience. Yeah, it could be individual and it could be the collective conscience. And maturity is, that yes, there is a surrender, there is a humility to seeing the pains and the survival stories of our own system. And we know that we can separate, and we can find our life without accusations, without holding them, without being better than them. Because the minute we feel, oh, I am something special and better off than all of them, then we will feel the pull, the binds of the collective unconscious conscience and also the individual conscience. So the spiritual conscience, which builds us maturity, where you can see from where, how these binds and bonds inform people's behavior, and you're able to see that. And this freedom is something so different from the action. It's not the freedom of the action, it's really the freedom that comes from understanding. Yeah, so this is the maturation process that happens, and we will always, meet these binds and bonds of conscience, and then keep finding our movement. So to find what is this movement, what are we talking about, and this is where we also come into the philosophy, the core foundational philosophy of constellation work, and that is principles of relationships. We are all here in life to be in relationship. Being human is being in relationship. There is no escaping it. Even if you leave everything and go and live in some remote forest and up in the mountains, your own inside, if you're not resolved, if you are not in agreement with your system, yeah, and your adulting process, then you may go far away. You may go into Mars, or you may go to Saturn, and you will still feel the binds and bonds of conscience because they live inside of us. Our entire system is right here, because this is the foundation is right here, right? So the maturing or the freedom of understanding comes in a different way. And so today I want to talk about the principles of relationships, orders of love. So love has certain orders, certain rules that are not based in right and wrong and good and bad, but it is something else. It's very phenomenological, so the here and now. And when we are aware of the orders of love, and we can find our own place in this ecosystem of our family, of earth, of our country, of the neighborhood that we live in, if we can find our place and honor everyone in their places that they are, and give and take in a way that it informs this flow, then we are able to meet love in a way that is dynamic, shifting, changing, alive. Yeah, and that's what we're going to look at. What are these orders of love that support me to be, that informs my place? Yeah, and that allows love to meet me, come through me, and come through me into the world, and allow from the world to come back to me. So what is this? And how do I endure these orders that stop me? The love from reaching me. Yeah. So I'm going to go into the presentation, and then we will go from there. And so here I have. This has been my journey with constellation, is really agreeing to my unique place on earth, and really being okay with my place, and in honor of my place and everyone else's place here. And I do only what I can, not more, not less, just right. Yeah. So what are orders of love, or principles of relationship? So to know that these orders of love are universal laws of nature and life, and it's not just part of the human system. As you start really going deeper, you can see it part of everything. There is an order in nature, and nature is very clear about this order. It functions with that order, and it also is in our bodies. Yeah, so it's also very much alive. And yes, it is as ancient and primal as the formation of earth. And these orders apply unanimously to everything and everyone without prejudice. Yeah, favoring notions of good or bad, right or wrong doing. Yeah, and it is based on our primal needs. Yeah, as human beings to survive, grow, develop, thrive in a healthy way, we have certain primary and primal needs. First one is the need for belonging. Yeah, we have this need to belong to a community, to a family, to the earth, to land, to nature. So belonging means we also have the right to be here. Yeah. And this is not just the right to be attached or to belong, but this is also to belong in a way that is true for me. That is, that I'm authentic, that I don't have to kill parts of me or build dams around me, myself, to belong. So what is this way of belonging? The need for belonging in a way that I experience connection and I also experience myself fully, true. Yeah. So that kind of belonging. And then there is a need to give and take in and from relationships. Like if we live in a community, if I'm part of a family, if I'm in a relationship, then I want to be able to show up just the way I am. I want to know that I'm seen just the way I am. I'm able to give in my capacity to give, not more, not less. And I'm able to take in my capacity from the other. And even here, when we are not able to do this or not able to move in this giving and taking, that relationship no longer is nurturing. That relationship is no longer nourishing, and we might feel ourselves withdrawing. We might feel ourselves not wanting to be there. So when these are there in relationships, to really see what's happening here, what's happening here. And the third longing is to be some sense of social order in life and relationships, some sense of placement, in the sense to know there's something about that, something about predictability. I think social order really gives us safety, where each one knows where they are, who they are, and how they are showing up. Yeah. Like if there's someone elder, they know exactly based on their life, their experience, they have a place here. They have seen the world more. So they have some knowing that comes from that. And if that's not have a place, then there's an unpredictability for them. And then it affects everything else. So when there is structure, when there is some sense of order, whether it's social, there's some predictability. It allows us to have faith. It allows us to trust. So order in life and relationship. This is the third longing. It gives us some, it supports us to be safe and to thrive and to enjoy, to play. So the order really supports that. If there is this particular social order or structural order is missing, whether it's in our body, whether it's in our home, whether it's in our society or community, like if a society, if that's there, this is very much connected to safety for me. We can't thrive. We are forever in our survival, right? So social order, some sense of order, family order, order in our body, organs and things like that. Like heart, I feel heart is really our heart needs to be quiet. It's the first organ that ever came into existence. The first is the heartbeat. So if our heart can't beat in a homeostasis way, nothing else, we lose all our predictability. We lose all our sense of faith, trust. It's all compromised. Yeah, belonging will not matter. Giving and taking will also not matter. So these three are our basic needs, and these three basic or primal needs is what is also the foundation of orders of love. They inform orders of love. So what is the first order of love or first principle of relationship? Is belonging. This addresses our primal need, a need for bonding, need for connection, need for, and where do we belong? Our first place, right? The minute we are born into a family system, as we are born, a child only knows the mother. It doesn't even know the mother. It actually only knows the mother's breast. It began even earlier with her womb. It needs to know that it belongs to this womb and this body, right? This body wants it. This body loves it. That's where the first sense of belonging comes from, the womb of the mother. And then when it comes out, it's at the body and the breast of the mother. And you want to know that you belong to this face that is looking at you. And the face also wants to mirror that back. Yes, you belong to me. You're here. And then it's not alone, because then first the child only sees that. Then the child sees a little more of the mother, and then it sees the father. So that's our very beginning, is this mother and father together. And they don't come, they are not independent people. They have a whole system because of which they exist here, right? So then so our very initial belonging begins with our family system. So what does this mean? It means, so what does order, this particular principle of relationship of belonging means? Belonging means that every person in our system has equal right to belonging. Every child that is coming into the systems of the last child, the first child, the second child, the parents, and everything that I described the family system. Everyone in that system has a right to belong. They have their place in that system that cannot be taken. Whatever may be their doing, even if it's the right doing, extreme wrongdoing, their place cannot be taken. Yeah, like a child. And when that, so this, and the minute we refuse the place of anyone in our system, yeah, there is a disorder in the system. There is a discord in the system. The system is no longer stable. So it cannot really survive challenges. And so there's instability in the entire system. So everyone has a right to belong. It's the saint or the murderer. They have equal right to belong. So the system, the entire system does not distinguish between people. It does not even distinguish between the dead and alive. So the dead and alive have equal right to belong. Even if someone is dead, they are part of the system. Those who were murdered are part of the system. Those, so we saw this whole thing, who is part of the system. So all those people have their place. And we cannot, when we try to hide or dismiss, take them out, don't acknowledge them, it has an energy then that it really start showing up, and its consequences are felt across, down and back. Yeah. And so when someone's belonging is not honored, then this knowing feel of the family system carries that. Their place is forever there. And that place is forever, is trying to fill that place. And yeah, saw that. Okay. Now, for example, like if you look at, I just giving a random example, like if you see this, there's a person, right, in constellation, they are unable to experience belonging anywhere in their life. Wherever they go, they feel, in every group they go to, there is a conflict. They can't belong there. So they have this difficulty in finding this belonging with anything and anyone. And many times we see that when we place that in the field and constellation, we might always end up finding someone they have excluded. It could sometimes even just be our own parent. We have excluded our father, or we have excluded our mother, or maybe we never knew our father when they were. So we just decided, and our mother remarried, or it could be the other way around. And we are continuously, we've completely forgotten our birth father or a birth mother. But our birth father and birth mother are the only parent really we have. Everything else is additional. Yeah. So it could just be, or a sibling who was sent away. It could even be a grand aunt or an uncle who was sent away and never remembered. But but they are there as part of the system. So someone excluded, hidden, immediately shows up, and when you give them a place, there is a relief in the system. And we say, I have an aunt. I don't have to keep looking for aunts. Or I have a father. I don't have to keep looking for this man everywhere and nothing is. So there's something in us which is constantly in our body itself, this missing is felt. And that missing part or that absent part is forever drawing us in life. So in one way, as we give place to people in our life and see them, their place there, something also eases in our body, right? So this is something that we see in constellation. So it is about giving everyone their place, an equal place. So we can take our own place as the oldest, the middle, the youngest. So when we are taken into someone else's life, when we start not being able to, constantly not able to belong anywhere, then we are not able to live our own life, right? So this movement supports us to do it. And sometimes in the way that our land's history is, it's not just one person. So maybe you find some relief after some time, you feel some other movement is start showing up in your life. You might see there's someone else too. So there are people, there are events, there are so many things in our own history. And even I talk about India and in the narratives of right and wrong, and we have, because of shame or because of so many rules and shoulds and moralities. So whenever we come into that kind of morality, it is always the personal conscience, individual conscience. And morality becomes more important than people. So we sacrifice people and relationships for morality, for this sense of right and wrong, and this we really see. And then those who come later, they will always feel holes in their own relationships, and they try to fill it up, but no one else can fill that hole. So now we come to the second order, which is the principle of relationships. Second order of love is a second principle of relationship is that there is a balance of giving and taking. It's the balance of giving and taking in relationships. So every relationship, there is this movement of balancing. So it's a present continuous tense. So it's once the balance is attained, the relationship cannot exist anymore. So the relationship, the love continues to flow through this need for balance. Yeah. So in giving and taking, that means when you give, you also take, you give, you take, you give, you take. So if there are two people here, so one gives and they have an upper hand and they need to give a little more. So then they feel more, I need to give back. So this movement, so there is this movement that keeps, and as I'm doing this movement, I'm thinking of planets, the way the planets move. The entire solar system is continuously moving. It's not still. I don't know, something about my movement reminded me. And yeah, so there are two kinds of relationships here that we can see. One is parent-child relationship, and the other is one is the parent-child relationship, and the other is a relationship of an equal partner. So Bert looks at two core relationships, right, that exist. One is man and woman relationship. And here I'm really talking about the heterogeneous relationship. It has an energy because it is through it that a new system is formed in a way that a child comes into life. Yeah, it is also connected to the sustenance of the human race. So it is a very primal force that the hetero man and woman's coming together in that sense is a very primal act. It is
Yeah, there's something about that, the energy there, right? So he really talks a lot about that relationship. So the man and woman coming together. So this partnership of man and woman, but we can also apply it to any partnership where also about the masculine and the feminine, and also the parent-child relationship. So here again, when he's saying parent, he's really talking about the biological parent-child relationship, because a child exists because of this, the parent. Yeah. And so it's only in the parent-child relationship that we can never balance out, because what we have got is life, right? And another thing in this, in the balance of giving and taking, is also that everyone in a family system has a unique fate. And what does that mean? That means that the way they can also show up in this balance of giving and taking is very unique. You know? And we cannot, so we cannot, um, yeah, we cannot balance that out, someone's fate. We cannot, it cannot be balanced out. Everyone has a unique fate. Sometimes we are wanting to take on things for people, to make things easy for them now to, and in that sense we sometimes lose our own, our giving or our taking sometimes goes beyond that balance, and that can have an impact. But when we are able to see that everyone has a unique fate, you know, and to surrender to that and then give and then honor what, even if you have a heavy fate, what you might get more, and to receive that more. Or maybe someone in your family has a heavy fate, so they need to be given more, and that will never be balanced. They cannot ever give back. But then when you know that you can give with that, that surrender to this fate, and how the fate has brought people together in a very unique way, and that both is binding and also bonding. Yeah. So this is something. And so now here we're going to first look at the relationship between a man and a woman. And this is again something very interesting that for me, or how Bert describes this relationship. So the foundation of a family is a sexual attraction between a man and a woman. So, and this polarity in a man and woman relationship is also what keeps the relationship going. And what is this polarity? What one has, the other doesn't. So if we both have everything that we have, and then we are not able to really complement each other. So this complementing each other is also something about, it's in a way, this inequality in the giving and taking is what keeps the relationship going, right? When a man desires a woman, he desires what he as man needs and does not have. When a woman desires a man, she too desires what she as a woman is missing. Yeah. So male and female form a complementary pair of partners who mutually define and complete one another. Each is what the other needs. So if love is to succeed, we must give what we are and take from our partner what we need. So this is very interesting. Yeah, for love to succeed in relationship, we need to give who we are, what we are, and what we can give, not more, not less. And we need to also be able to take from the other, yeah, what we need. So we have to be able to give what we can, and we have to be able to take what we need. And so giving ourselves, taking and having our partner, we become man and woman, and with him or her, we become a couple. So now this can also be a homosexual couple. It could be anyone, because there is that part is also still there, but it is a different unit from the child part, right? So it's a different unit. And yeah, a man, what we also have to know that man and woman are two partners who come together to form a couple relationship. They come from two different family systems. And when they come together, a new system is getting born, a new system. is coming into existence. And they both come from these two systems. Yeah, to be able to remember that. So a man, so a couple, two people who come together, the complications of that will be visible here. So they are not some independent people who came out of the sky. They came from the system. Okay, and to remember that is so important. Yeah, and that couple relationship is between equal adults, equal partners. Yeah. And the flow of love in a couple relationship is based on this balance of giving and taking. And this balance of giving and taking is very interesting. Yeah. And the way he talks about this balance of giving and taking is one, when you love another and you're coming in a relationship, you want to give. You give to them from your heart. You give what you can fully. And then, and the other receives it. And then you are drawn to give back. You want to again give back to the one who gave you with love. And he says that for love to flow like that, give a little more when you're giving. So each one is kind of giving a little more of the good, and in that sense, they are flowing. So if one partner is only giving, and the other partner is taking, then after some time, the polarity, the coupleness in this relationship starts fading out. They become more like brother and sister kind of relationship than a couple relationship. Yeah. And in the same way, this balance, everything there is a balance, even when something is, some harm happens. Someone does something in a relationship to hurt the other. Even then we might feel this need to hurt the other person. But if we hurt equal or more than what they did, yeah, if we move into that revenge mode, then we lose love. The love stops flowing. So it's important to honor this reciprocation, that not reciprocation, you hurt me, so you can also hurt the other. It's not you can, it's good to respond to that. But respond to that in a way that there's maturity in it. And it leaves room for love. So you always hurt back a little less, and this allows love room to kind of heal and flow and move. So it is very interesting. This is something that we will never hear being said in this way. So I'm just looking at, do I need to say anything more in this love between partners? Yeah, and Bert here says also that for love between partners to really succeed, it requires the renunciation of our first and most intimate love, our love as a child for our parent. Only when a boy's attachment to his mother is resolved can he give himself fully to his partner and enter manhood. And in the same way, a girl's attachment to her father must also be resolved before she can fully give to a man and be a woman. Yeah. What does this mean to be fully resolved if we are still a daddy's girl or you're a mom's boy? It is very difficult to be a man and a woman and to be with another partner. Yeah. So successful togetherness demands the sacrifice and transformation of an earlier child bond to our parents, the boy to his mother and the girl to her father. So if this bond does not transform, then it is very difficult to realize the couple relationship. And it may become very difficult for the partners to fully give just the way they are to their partner and to take from their partner. Because you're still in that individual conscience, and it might keep bringing some sense of guilt and innocence that you would play that child out in that relationship. So this is something, yeah, about couple relationship and the giving and taking in couple relationship. And it's also, if you're in any relationship as an adult, there has to be this movement of flow of giving and taking. And if that doesn't happen in the relationship, then that is not a relationship of partnership. It becomes a parent-child relationship where one gives and the other receives. And that's what we want to go in the next is, okay, now before we go there, there's some more. This I kind of mentioned it, but I will go a little bit more. Giving and taking with love. So I spoke about this. A gives to B. There is a natural urge in B to reciprocate and give more than or equal back what is received. And then this way, the exchange continues. And in a way, the imbalance. Yeah. So in a way here, if you look at it, the imbalance, so you always have a little imbalance in this play of imbalance. This is what keeps the love flowing. And when a balance is attained, when someone has nothing more to give and nothing more to receive, then the relationship also ends. Okay? And the other is same, the balance also in the negative way. So we looked at that. Yeah, if one person harms or hurts the other, then even then there is a tendency we want to hurt back. But when we hurt back, the best way to balance in a negative way is not to hurt the other in the same or even more ways, but to hurt them a little less. And this movement, again, you have to come back into your bodies, knowing to step into this one. And there can also be a disorder in giving and taking when A gives to B more than B wants and can ever give back. Yeah. So when you give to someone and they don't want that really that much, but you smother them with their love, and they can never give back. So people need to be able to give back what they receive. Or when A takes from B more than what B is willing to give back. Yeah. Then in either case, there is a disorder. And this disorder will start really impacting the relationship. And usually what happens is one who has been given too much or who has taken from, they become angry and they leave the relationship. So this is very common. So if there is anger and there's a wanting to move, just to see what's happening in this balance of giving and taking in a relationship. Is one person asked to give way more than their capacity, or are they being taken from? Yeah. Okay, so this is something about very important to know about partner relationship. And now we come to the parent-child relationship. So parent-child relationship is the only relationship where this balance of giving and taking cannot be attained. Parent gives and the child takes. Okay, so any relationship where this starts happening, where one person is continuously giving and the other is continuously taking, so there is again the simulation of the parent relationship. But that's for that relationship really can't exist because there is not a parent relationship. If it's in a partner relationship, this is happening, then the partner relationship starts shifting. Even if in a sibling relationship, this is happening, again, this is a different movement. And so again, here I wanted to show this. Yeah, what we get from our parents is something very, very significant, and that is life. And here again, let me read what God says, because it is very powerful to, to receive it in his own words. Parent-child love succeeds when a disparity of giving and taking is maintained. The first systemic order of love between parents and children is that parents give and children take. So the most valuable thing that children receive from their parents, no matter who their parents are or what they may have done, is the opportunity to live. Receiving life from their parents, children take their parents, and those parents are the only possible ones for them. Children can't afford, or children can't add to, omit from, or reject anything in life that their parents give. And in the same way, it is also impossible for parents to add or withhold anything when they give themselves as parents to their children. So this movement between parent and child, is such a force. There is a very primordial, primal force of nature itself that comes through and takes the parent and child in this movement of giving and taking, of belonging. So when children take life from their parents, they are also taking what their parents previously received from their own parents. So we are not just receiving our parents, we are also receiving many times what our parents received from their parents. And in a way that they are also not able to avoid in that giving. So sometimes we are not just receiving love, we are also receiving harm, we are also receiving pain in this relationship with our mother and father. And yet love succeeds when children value the life they have been given, when the children can take their parents just as the parents are, and not more, not less. And sometimes, even when we have a heavy faith, we received some really painful movements from our parents, to see our parents also in that's what they give, not as good or bad, or in that sense. Because if we reject even one parent, there is a half missing. There is a half in us missing. Because in constellation work, one of the things we also say that we are 50% our father and 50% our mother. And when I reject either one or both, I'm also creating an imbalance in my own body. There's an absence in my own body that I am opening, which I can never fill. It is impossible to fill, because nobody can take the place of our biological parents. Even when we are adopted, there is a movement. If we don't really, even if we don't know our parents, if we know that we do have biological parents through whom I came, they have a place in this system, and it can be felt in my own body. And I give them a place in my body, and I feel them, and I receive them in my body. There's a movement. And then I take my adoptive parents. So this relationship we can never balance. And sometimes in this act of balancing what we have received from our parents, we get stuck. We are not able to flow back into our relation, into our own life. Okay. So here I just have this picture of my own, my own parents and myself. And this is an image that I always carry, that I'm standing in front of my parents. And whoever they are, however they are, what I've got from them, there are things that they have got from their parents which have come to me. And in a way that, as an adult, I can say it's enough. I have received enough. I don't have to keep looking at them to get more. I don't need that. I can give more to us. I can come. I can take care of myself. I can take care of this little child whose needs may or may not have been met. She can look to me now. And so that order can also be my balance of giving and taking. So that's the balance of giving and taking between parents. And now we come to the third order, which is order itself. So the third order of relationships is order of precedence. And this is very interesting one, because this means that those who came before us, they precede. So those who came before precede those who come after in the order. And for And we are able to feel the stability and the structural integrity of a system when, or the safety in our system when this order is held and maintained. When we, those who came before precede those who come after. So this principle demands that everyone in the family take their rightful place, which is theirs alone to take. So parents are big. So grandparents are the biggest in a family. Then come the parents, and then come the child, right? And this is so. What Bert says is this hierarchy. There is a hierarchy in our system, and it meets three criteria. One is of time, one is of weight, it means priority, one is of function. Yeah. And let us look at what does that mean? What is this precedence of time? So with respect to time, if you look at it, family hierarchy always flows from above to below and from earlier to later. Like if I look at our own earth and us as human beings, we can say that we are the youngest in order here. We are the youngest in order. And we will see how this will also change in the weight. We are the youngest in order. Yeah. And of all the species, we are the youngest species on this earth. And so the point at which we came into our family, and when we talk about family system, that ensures our place in the system. So those who came before, they have had a longer place. They have known the system a little bit longer than us. Yeah. And just like time, we cannot stop it or reverse this direction. So it's just like, I have this image of the river, which always flows from top to down, and you cannot change that. Yeah. We can build dams on it and change the direction of the river. But as we have seen, a dam in the long run doesn't serve it completely. All indigenous cultures do not appreciate dams. They are not in favor of dams because that really changes the natural flow of life, of water. And so with respect to time, what this means, that children always come after parents, and the youngest always follow the older. Yeah. And with respect to weight, what does it mean? Weight means certain relationships have more weight or importance over others. That means they have certain more priority. For example, in a family system, the relationship between the father and mother is more important than the parent-child relationship. That means a father and mother relationship happened first, then came the child. So that relationship needs to have more weight than the child. Sometimes when the child comes into the system, parents forget each other. They're so focused, and it is needed. That's where the function comes in. There is a function sometimes. Functionally, certain relationships take priority. They need in that time and in that moment, their function supersedes. But then we have to come back. It needs to come back. And the child is able to do things on their own, and the parents need to come back. Because if the parents stand in their own order as adults, as parents who are resourced, who have their own parents behind them, the child feels safe. The child is able to take fully from the parent, and the parents are able to give fully. So this is very important. So certain relationships precede others based on the context of time, need, and weight. Yeah? Like when a new baby is born, the mother-child bond relationship supersedes all the other relationships. So in that bonding time, the partner can't say, hey, come on, you need to give me more time. No, in that time, the partner is also taken in that movement, and he allows this bonding to happen. So this functionality, this functional precedence keeps shifting and moving as well. And now let us look at this. What are these various orders? What are the various kinds of orders that exist in the system? One is the oldest come first and the youngest come last. What does this mean? This means that the grandparents. So you see that first image, the grandparents come first, then come the parent, and then come the child. So if the parents don't honor their own parents, it has an impact on the child. The child many times becomes big, really big. And sometimes these movements are cyclic. The systemic entanglements continue across systems. Yeah. And between siblings, the eldest always comes first because the eldest got first into this line of the parent. And then comes a second, and then comes a third, and then comes the last. So that means the eldest gives to those who come after. The first child gives to the second child. The second child, it doesn't mean the first eldest does not give to the third child. But if the eldest forgets the other child in between and directly connects to the last child, that is also can cause an impact in the system. Yeah. And so the eldest gives to the next one receives from the eldest, gives to that. It does not mean that there is, this is very systemic, this is very phenomenological. You know what it is, what this means. And this is again, if there is a break in this order in the line already, that is what keeps getting repeated. If the child in the earlier system, the youngest had to become really big in their order, they had to give, they were asked to give because the older, maybe the older siblings had a heavy faith, they had some disability, or they had to go away, and the young shows up to take care. And young is never released from that position, and they start feeling they're very big, they are the oldest. This will also start showing up in the next line, where the youngest or you will see these repeated patterns, and then everyone feels a little inconvenient or uncomfortable. And many times the youngest get hurt because everyone else gets angry with them, though they are sacrificing, they've done all that. Nobody wants, so the young will like, I've done so much for you, but how come? But then their place, their order, they're the youngest. They took on a role that was really not theirs. Yeah, and nobody released them from that role. So in the systemic stance, the first born gives the most and the last born takes the most. So in what happens is sometimes in the old days, the last born gets to, comes into this role of taking care of the parents, and that's all right. Yeah. And that's one order. So we looked at the order of siblings, and then the husband-wife relationship precedes the parent-child relationship. And this is again something that I see that often doesn't, in this modern world, often doesn't get mirrored properly. Because what happens is when the children come into the life, the mother and the father in a nuclear family setup don't have much support. So they forget each other. They forget their own resources. So their focus becomes, a child becomes really more important. Everything is around the child. So they are not getting any time. Their own knowing of themselves as man and woman compromises. And the child is also not able to see them as man and woman. They only see them as their father and mother. They don't see them as anything else. So this really compromises the entire unit. And now, this is another thing. This is where this order is a little different. In new relationship systems, not relationships, but in new relationship systems. What's a new relationship system? A new relationship system is when a couple comes together and they have a child, they form a new system now. A new system has become open, right? This system takes precedence over the old systems. So the couple relationships takes priority over the relationship with the family of origin, in the same way that a second marriage has precedence over the first. So if someone goes into a second marriage, that marriage now, that they're forming a new system, that system needs to be of priority. So if they are constantly comparing it with their previous partner or previous relationship, then this relationship does not stand a chance. So while they give a place to the previous partner, this new relationship, they have to give, this new relationship system needs to take priority. And another interesting point here is if someone has a child from the old system, from an old relationship, that parent-child relationship precedes this new relationship. So a child from the first marriage, like if I had a child from my first marriage and I leave that marriage and I go and marry another marriage. So my child from my first marriage, they precede my relationship with my new partner. That means if my new partner cannot really give this place that my children, this children from my previous marriage will come before him. And if I am not allowed to give them that place before him, this relationship will suffer. And sometimes the new children which may come from this system might be drawn to take the place of the previous partner of the previous kids, and in the sense to include them. So this is all about inclusion. So even if when you go into a new marriage, the new partner knows that this child has come before in my partner's life, and that relationship has more priority, will have more weight in this life. And that means that sometimes my relationship, if I'm not able to take that fully, if I'm not able to honor that, then I will definitely not fully have this person in my life. We will not be able to fully enjoy this relationship. And you can see that happens. Yeah. Yeah. And order is something very interesting. When order, there is a violation in order. When children become parents, the children have to take on roles of becoming bigger. Many times the consequences here are very devastating. And often I see that, I even read about it, Botox, there's a death movement that happens because the past and the present and the future, they all get reversed. It's like a river flowing back. That's impossible. And the only way that backward movement is possible is like a death movement. So whenever order, there is disease and death, and many times you will see order. There's some order in the family that has been compromised. Children having to have become big to take care of parents, and parents taking from children. These kind of movements, or I for you movement. We also see systemic entanglement. I for you is when children see parents with their heavy fate, or parents having a lot of sadness, and parents haven't kind of wailed it from their children. Yeah, parents are moving into sharing or showing that, and sometimes it's not even conscious. It is there, and children see it, and children have the tendency to take it on from their parents unconsciously. These unconscious moments, I will carry the sadness for you, and I will be sad mom, or I will be sad dad, and I will never allow happiness in my life. And in that way, I am loyal to you because you never had happiness and joy. Because you never could be independent, I will compromise my independence, and I will be in a relationship just like yours. And I will suffer, I will atone with you. So this kind of loyalty can happen, the I for you movement, where we sacrifice, where someone lower in the order takes on something for someone bigger and gets identified with them. That's an I for you movement. There can also be a you from I movement, that I sacrifice you from, and that's usually the one higher up, because they have power. It's a power movement. So it's a movement of power of someone bigger, sacrificing someone lower in the order for their own gains, or for their own success, or for their own joy, or for their own ease or relief. Yeah, so these movements can really be seen in constellation work. And what it happens is, this causes disentanglement. So you can start seeing how in principles, these are principles of relationship. This is the last principle of relationship order. So constellation work really demonstrates that. One of the things that constellation work, when we look at it, it didn't start with you. So what you are seeing is not just about you, it is showing something more. Yeah, so it really shows the stream of consciousness, stream of the greater love, which has not just you, which has so many aspects. So many times the question to ask is not why is it this way, and why am I that way, or why are he or she or my parents this way, or it is to look at what happened for it to appear this way now. Yeah? Who is missing? Who is hidden? Whose fate am I living? Who is excluded from and in my life? Yeah. And who am I sacrificing for? Who am I atoning for? And really being able to see these hidden systemic layers is what constellation work really supports us to do. And Yeah, so that we can, whatever fate we come with, we can stand in that and fully allow that. Yeah. And whatever fate our parents have come, our sisters, our brothers, our siblings, our uncles and aunts, we can honor them. We can see them exactly in that and say, yes, I see you just the way you are. And because of just the way you are, the way that I meet my life is also different, right? And that's okay. And now I cannot get that from here. From here, looking back, enough. I've got enough. This is enough. And I can now find my resources and I can be in the flow of my life. And when we move that, we know that we always see that when the child really chooses its happiness, the better the children are, the better are the parents, the better is the line, better are the ancestors. There's a relief in the ancestors because all that, even if it's murder, death, sacrifices that happen in the family, it's always for survival. And when the one standing in the front line is not thriving in life and is looking back, it weighs heavy on everyone. Yeah. So the movement in constellation is about finding this connection or coming back into this connection that has come to us just the way it has come to us, and also finding our separation. And in that separation, and that happens when we can find that freedom of understanding, and we arrive there, we find that freedom, a little bit of freedom, free will to choose exactly the life that we want. And that's constellation. And there are many things here that today I am not going into. I would invite you to come to a constellation work, to know more, to see more, to experience more. That's what I would invite you. But these orders of love are really very powerful. And yeah, and to coming back into our own place. And one of the ways that in constellation, the view is always of seeing our parents with their own parents behind them, to know that our parents are not children. They are adults with their own parents from whom they can take. Even if they are not, they don't know that, to see that yeah, they have their parents. I am not their parent. I am their child. I am small and they are big. This is one huge moment in India. I feel we are all at some point or the other moved into becoming bigger than our own capacities, filling in shoes that we were never capable of filling, and having to give from there. And it brings a deep sense of exhaustion, incapacitation. And sometimes we continue that in different systems that we go, we are again doing that. So these movements that are part of a system, wherever we go, these dynamics play out. And actually we know today that group dynamics, in every group dynamics, this earlier system, our origin system dynamics start showing up. We start behaving with people exactly how we start behaving in our own family systems. That's why this clearing of a family system and finding our own place becomes so important, to be in the world and fully be ourselves in a new movement, in our own authenticity and in our own truth. And so I invite you to come to a constellation session and to explore how does this happen? How do the orders of love show up? And how do you stand in the right place, in your body, in your system? Yeah, so I hope you watch and you come and you seek this wisdom. And so thank you so much for watching, and many, many blessings. Blessed be.